Nice. All right, so let's do this. Let's start the demo, and I will use the same code that I used last week, where I define a class with a scraper with the using the Zoopla scraper. And but the only thing, today's demo is going to be quite easy. I'm just going to tell you basically the main things that you have to know about Docstring, about type hinting, about how to structure your folder in order to make it a little bit more accessible for anyone who wants to take a look at your code. And at the end of the session, I will publish this package to the PyPy repository. So that will be basically it. As always, if you have any question, if you want to ask me anything, yeah, don't hesitate, just interrupt me anytime you need it, and we can stop it. I mean, we can stop the recording. Sorry, we can stop the demo. Okay, so let me open just the folder. I think this is the scraper. Nice. And here we go. All right. Yeah, sorry, I'm not looking at the camera. I'm just having like two different laptops. It's going to be a little bit difficult to focus on just a screen. Okay, so this is basically the scraper we had. This scraper was very, very simple. We only had, let me just put it a little bit more, okay, a little bit more tidy, and good. So the scraper basically initializes a driver. Then we provide some methods such as accept cookies. We can also look for a search bar and all the stuff like send keys to the search bar. But of course, if we are going to send keys to a search bar, we need to first send those keys, search that bar, and then we will be able to send those keys. So yeah, we have that. We have another method to find a container of all the list. A container for, in this case, it's going to be Zoopla. So it's going to find the container with a list of properties of each page. And oh, sorry, this is actually a thing that I was working with Adam for it, but I'm just going to remove that. And okay. So first of all, I just want to ask you guys, what's the difference between a docstring and a comment?
Is it that a docstring gets picked up in when you ask for help, when you type help on the module?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, correct, exactly. And another question is that, all right, so we can provide docstrings to functions, to what else?
Classes.
Very good. Another thing, anything else?
Modules.
Modules, exactly. And one more thing.
Entire Python files to programs.
Packages.
Well, I mean that'd be like a module, right? That would
Yeah,
be
sure. Yeah,
that's a module. But yeah, that I'm basically being a little bit picky with the answer for this question. Basically, I meant the package. So basically, you can provide docstrings for classes, functions, methods, modules, packages, everything. I mean, mainly everything that you can imagine on Python. Now, how can we just include, in this case, for example, let's say that I want to include the docstring for the scraper. Who can tell me what should I write? What I should write here?
You write it in triple quotes.
Correct. And well, now we have different nomenclatures, different ways to include this docstring, but I usually go with the NumPy one, which is very easy to understand and to write. So I'm just going to do that. But usually, what should the docstring include, apart from, of course, what the class, method, module, whatever is doing? Apart from that, what what should I include inside Docstring?
Inputs and outputs.
Yep. Okay. So yeah, I'm just going to define a definition for this scraper, a really short one. For example, this. Oh, come on, I can write this scraper class is a scraper that can be used for browsing different websites. Okay, so let's put the inputs. In this case, the inputs are going to be the parameters. And in this case, the parameters that we just need to pass, or the only parameter that we need to pass to the class will be URL. So the URL is going to be a string. Now I'm going to come back to this thing here very shortly. And here we basically define what that URL corresponds to. In this case, URL will be the link that we want to visit. All right, very simple. It's nothing really fancy. And apart from doing all of this information, apart from providing all this sort of information, do you think it's well, this is an open question for all of you. Do you think this is going to be only helpful for the final user?
It'll be helpful for other developers as well.
Exactly. Yep, very well. So, and actually it's and this comes from personal experience. Whenever I fail to write a good docstring, a good information about my own code, then as soon as I come back to it, like 1 week later, I completely forgot about everything. So yeah, it's also a good practice to include that also as a self-note for you. Okay, so now in this case, I have a class. So when you define the docstring on a class, you can provide the parameters, which will be the input. Then if you are creating a function or a method, then you will include the expected output or what it returns. And but in this case, I'm also providing arguments. What in a class, what's an argument? Or let's not be so technical. Let's just define here what will be my only argument in this case.
Do you mean argument or attribute?
Oh, all right. Thank you, Pete. That was completely my fault. Yes,
Yeah, I can answer the attribute question. I couldn't answer the argument question.
Yeah, me neither. Me
parameters.
neither. Yeah, that was a brain fart. Sorry about that. Okay, so yeah, attribute. Which one will it be?
The driver.
Yes, very well. And now we come to something a little bit difficult because I'm not going to define the type of the driver yet. I'm just going to leave that blank for now. But yeah, this is the web driver object. Oops, object. Cool. Okay, so basically we already know how to create a docstring for a class. We can do the same thing for functions or for methods. They are very similar, so I'm just going to do that for the method. In this case, yeah, there we go. Same thing, three quotes or three double quotes. Both of them are going to work fine. Now, let's say, for example, for the accept cookies, I'm just going to say this method looks for and click on the accept cookies button. All right, easy. And now, same thing, parameters. Okay, who wants to help me with this? What parameters should I include?
The XPath.
Yes, correct. Path is going to be a string, and yeah, this is going to be the path of the accept cookies button. And yeah, as you can see, it's not returning anything, so I'm not going to return anything here. Now we're going to provide a docstring for something that is actually going to return here something. Let's see in this case what we are going to return. Looks for the search for given the edge path. And now just going to copy that thing here. Parameters, edge path string, the edge path of the search bar. Good. And now, since we are returning something, returns. Okay. So we have something a little bit tricky here. Let's see how many people have already reached the docstring and testing part and all that. Okay, cool. All right. Well, in that case, since not everyone has reached this part, I'm just gonna create a function here. We're very simple. The dummy function, for example, and accept X as a parameter. So I'm just gonna create a very easy docstring. This is a dummy function. And as parameters, we need to put the inputs. So yeah, you write parameters, and then you write the name of the parameter, the type of that parameter, the data type of that parameter. So let's say that this is going to be a string, and I will come back very shortly to this naming here, this naming convention here, that I just creating a string, str, integer, depending on the data type that is supposed to be passed to that function. So in this case, yes, we have a string, and X is going to be, this is a dummy variable. And let's say that we are going to return Y. Y is going to be X plus, well, it's going to be hello, and then we're going to concatenate X, something like that. So now what we are going to return is basically Y. Okay, so who can tell me what's the data type of Y?
It's a string.
Yes, thank you. Come on, guys, don't be shy. Don't let Pete and Jonathan take all the protagonism.
Yes, good. Go on.
Okay, so it's going to return Y, which is another string, and this represent a concatenation of hello plus X, something like that. Okay, so here basically we are just defining what we are going to return. We can return a string. I don't know, maybe we are just returning, maybe instead of just returning that, we are going to return Y2, and that's it. So if we return Y, in this case, this is going to be an integer, but if I put 2.4, this is going to be a float. So very, very simple. We just have to define the data type that we have included for our variable, and that's it. Nothing really fancy, nothing really difficult. Very simple stuff. So if we go back here, we can return search bar, or we can return none. This is going to be a little bit difficult, because how can we tell, all right, I'm going to return search bar in some cases, or I'm going to return none in other cases. That's a little bit tricky. So I'm going to explain now the type hinting that I've been talking a little bit so far. And to explain that, let me just go to the dummy function. All right, so in this case, well, type hinting, first of all, it's going to allow us to indicate the final user or the next developer what data type should our data have. So for example, in this case, if our code is intended to be working with a string or at least this function is intended to be working with a string as an input, we have to define that as well. We can just give some hints to define what the data type is supposed to be. In this case, it's supposed to be a string. So we can just say, all right, this is going to be a string. Then you don't have to define it. You probably have just defined a lot of functions without providing this type hinting, and nothing goes wrong. And actually, if let's say that I'm going to define all of this in a notebook just to show you what happens in many cases, in case we don't meet the requirements or the hints that we are providing the function. Okay, so we have dummy function, and x is supposed to be a string. So let's see what happens if I'm let's say that I'm a rebel and I don't want to use a string. I'm just going to say that x is going to be 2. Now it's an integer, so will it work? Well, who wants to guess? Who wants to guess what will happen here?
Got a type error.
All right, that's a good guess. That should be, that should be the natural behavior, right? Because otherwise, why the hell would I be just bothering including this type hinting? But the natural type hinting or the default type hinting doesn't allow you to throw an error in case you are not passing the same data type that you are supposed to pass. This will help us. The type hinting will just help us to know what type of data we should pass or the next developer should pass. The reason for including this is because, all right, you are developing this code and you are telling the next user that, okay, you are supposed to use a string. It's not my fault if you don't use a string and it breaks. If you are not using a string, that's under your responsibilities. I just told you what you should include. Otherwise, yep, it's not my fault that this is not working. And we can take a look at what type of data we should provide just by taking a look at the documentation of the function that we created. So here we can see that dummy function should accept a string, and to be a little bit more redundant, we can also provide that in the parameters here. Okay, so just to be a little bit more, well, as I said, we are going to be really redundant with all of this. We are going to say, all right, you have to pass a string, and this function is going to return you something. And that something can be seen here, and can also be seen at the definition of the function. So in this case, we write like some sort of arrow by writing a dash greater than to represent some sort of arrow. And in this case, we are going to return a float. And just like that, we are telling the user what they have to pass and what they should expect. Now, yep, we see that they are going to pass a string, and they are going to, or they're supposed to get a float. They are supposed to get a float. Okay, so that's the docstring for functions and for classes. Let me just be a little bit more. Let me just close a couple of things here. Init has closed. Where's the scraper? There we go. And this is going to be removed. We don't need it anymore. That one doesn't need it. It's not needed as well. Okay. Good. So let's just define another docstring very quickly. Well, actually, now that we know all of that, I completely forgot about what my point was this stage. So we had this docstring, and we want to return something. We want to return, in this case, search bar or none. But those are two completely different data types. On one hand, we have a web element, a Selenium web element, and on the other hand, we have none. So we can define those type of, let's say, alternatives or those type of options with a library called typing. So from typing here, we can import, for example, there are many different types that we can import here. So for example, I'm just going to show you typing Python. I'm just going to show you the documentation for this. And this library will basically give us like what type of data we can provide to our type engine. So yeah, you can see that when you import from typing, let's see if I can take a look at more condensed documentation. Nope, this is very spread out. I mean, that's the official documentation. No, oh no, here's PP 44. Let's see if it loads. But basically, if you want to provide two different types of data type, or even more, you can just use this library and use things such as union, any optional stuff like that. Let's see if I can find what I'm trying to look for. Okay, from typing, callable. Okay. All right, you can check. I mean, the best thing about it is that documentation is huge, but let's just put on Google typing Python that can be known, something like that. Here. Yep, there we go. So usually when you have some doubts about it, you know that you can always rely on good old Google or Stack Overflow. In this case, we have two different options: optional and union. Union. So let me just explain both of them, because probably those are the ones that you need to understand the most. So union and optional. So the union will allow us to include any possible data type that can be returned. And the way to do so is by, for example, in this case, we are going to return either search bar or none. So what we are going to return is going to be union. And one of the possibilities will be WebDriver element. And the other one will be none. Okay, so that's as easy as that. If there's more possibilities, if you can return different type of data here, you can just include them in a list. Let's say, for example, that another possibility will be returning integers, another possibility will be returning strings. So you can add as many data types to that list as you want. Now we have union, and as I mentioned, we also have optional. Okay, so optional is very similar, but it only gives you two possibilities, something or none. And that something will be included inside the square bracket. So if I put optional here and the WebDriver element, this is the same as saying union. Let me just copy this. Union WebDriver element or none. They are the same. You are going to provide the same information with both type hinting. But usually, to be a little bit more succinct, we can just use optional, and that's it. So yes, once again, let's return here an optional, and now we have a specific, or we have a special data type here. It's going to be WebDriver.element, and WebDriver is actually something that we are importing from Selenium. Yeah, we can just say, all right, so from Selenium, import WebDriver, Selenium to WebDriver, and that's it. So now Python will know, or at least our code will know what this WebDriver thing corresponds to. And now you can see that this is not giving us any sort of error. Actually, probably I will need to check on this because it's probably WebDriver element, Chrome, whatever. It's very long. But if you want to be really specific about your data type, just check the documentation on the library that you are going to use, and just put the class that you are going to use on your script. Cool. All right, so string, everything's looking fine. Everything looks fine. Let's just finish this. So text is going to be string, and then we'll write something on a search bar. And parameters will be the text, which will be a string, and the text we want to pass to the search bar. And I think that's it. I'm just gonna comment this out. Not necessary now. And all right, so who wants to tell me what I should include here?
White space.
Okay, white space. What else? Hello? All right, guys, it's the same thing as here. I mean, we are going to put the data type that we are going to pass to the function, and after here, we are going to pass the data type that we are going to return. In this case, what are we returning?
Nothing, none.
Exactly, and that's it. So if you have a void function or a void method, by the way, a void function is a method or function that doesn't return anything. If you are going to do that, it's a good practice to also include that. Don't expect anything. Don't worry if you haven't returned or you haven't received any response from the function. It's supposed to work that way. Cool. All right, so now we already documented our function, our class. And let's just see a few things that you should follow before publishing this package, or before you push this package or this class to your GitHub repo. And this type of comments that I'm going to show you, or this type of let's say tips, are basically something that it's a good practice to try to implement on your daily programming routine. And many of the things that you will see on clean code is that whenever you have your code in front of you, you shouldn't see things like this green line, this red line here. Okay, and if you want to enable that kind of things, you can go and press Ctrl-Shift-P. Here, it will open the command palette, and inside the command palette, you can just type select linter, and the linter is going to help you give a proper format to your script. My favorite one is plate 8, and probably one of the favorites of the community. So once you activate that, it will throw, or it will point out a lot of errors. In my case, I don't have a lot, but there's some of them here. Now you will see some errors. In this case, you can just hover the red line just to see what's going on. In this case, it's saying, all right, so you imported typing union, but it's not used. The reason that it's complaining about it is because, yeah, it will just waste resources that otherwise could be potentially be used. One there. Another thing that you will usually see is that a line shouldn't contain more than 79 characters. You can change that, but it's usually a norm. Like All right, so if you have a really long string, it's better to divide that into two different lines. So in this case, you can just get to the dot here, press enter, put an indentation, and put everything in brackets. And now, yeah, now it's not complaining anymore. You will see the same thing on many other lines here, probably taking a little bit to load. But yeah, once you correct that, just save the file and the linter will act again. In this case, probably all the problems that are being pointed out are because the lines are too long. But yeah, try to read those errors or those problems as much as possible, because if you manage to make all of this, or if you manage to push a code that contains really clean code, that will draw attention to anyone that is interested on your project. So yeah, try to keep a really tidy and clean code, because that's something that will denote that you know what you're doing.
Hi, Ivan. Sorry to interrupt you. Someone is giving us a bit of feedback. Get that person, just mute their mic, please.
Okay. Oh, sorry. Maybe I'm muted here. Sorry. Yeah, I'm not sure. Are you still hearing some feedback? I can't hear anything. Maybe it's me. No, I'm muted here. I have my mic. Yep.
I'm not hearing any feedback, but Misha Siddiqui is the only one who's unmuted.
Oh, okay. Well, cool. Yeah, let's keep moving. So that's basically everything I wanted to explain to you about Docstring and the Docstring. Oh, well, I'm not done with Docstring, sorry. With type hinting, that's everything that I wanted to show you. Now I'm going to explain just a small theme more about Docstring, and that's basically how to divide your code into packages, into tests, into tests and the main package, and how to incorporate the Docstring for each one of those. So the first thing that I'm going to do is going to create a main scraper. I'm just going to call it scraper. Cool. And there we go. I'm just going to move my main scraper to that folder. And now I'm going to create another folder that will contain all the tests. And in this case, I'm going to call it test scraper .py. Cool. So usually when you have a tree or when you have a project, you want to have everything separated by your main module or your main script and your test. So in the test, you can just define the test that you want to check, or the code that you want to check, in order not to find anything that has been faulty or has been changed, for example, on the website that you're scraping. So I'm just going to create a very short test. You can implement as much as you want. In this case, I'm just going to create a really small one. Test unit test dot what was the name that I'm looking for? Case test case. I will forget about the class name of it. Let me just go to the notebook, because I always copy paste everything and then I forget the most important stuff. But if you go to the notebook, you will see all this content that I'm explaining. But I'm just going to explain you like a bit on the main, or well, not the main, let's say some hints or some tips that might be useful for you. Okay, so testing. Come on, unit test test case. I was right. Where wasn't it just importing it? Yeah. Okay. So you are going to define all those tests inside a class, and that class will run whenever you run unit test. So let's put, for example, test scraper, and you are going to pass unit test test case, which basically is the base class that you can use to create your unit test. So the first thing that I'm going to define is, let's say that I want to check if my scraper is actually going to the, I'm just gonna initialize the driver and I'm gonna check if my driver is actually going to the URL that I told it to go. So test, let's just call it test init. So as always in a class. And first of all, inside the test, and this is going to be a little bit tricky because take a look at what we have here. We have two different folders and we want to run this test scraper that will import a script that is in another folder. So it's not like they are in the same folder. It's not a child folder. It's going to be a script that is going to be on a different folder. Then it's going to be a different folder from this test that we are going to run. So if I try to do something like from scraper.scraper import import I'm going to import the class scraper. Let's see what happens if I try to run this. First of all, let's just pass and I'm going to run this. So see, there's so many windows on Zoom. Okay. Zipla open into a terminal. Nice. Okay, so I mentioned I want to run this test scraper, so I'm going to move inside test. Check that out. Yeah, we can see that test scraper is here. So I'm gonna run this. I'm just gonna run this. I'm not gonna make any tests yet. I'm not gonna run any tests yet. Scraper.py. And it's saying that no module name scraper. Like, how's that possible? We know that's here, but who can tell me what's going on? Who can tell me why I can't find scraper?
Well, it needs to go up a level in the directory, doesn't it, to find it?
Correct. Very well. So let's go a level up, and now I'm gonna run the same thing, but now we have to specify the whole path. So it will be test, and inside test we are going to run test scraper.py. Still not working. Is there anything that I'm missing? Okay, any guess, anything that you want to?
Wait, I don't. Wait, but you didn't. Like it's from the import statement, right? That's wrong. Like you're in the tests folder. And you need to go up a level in the actual code, not in the terminal, right?
Well, yes, but that that usually takes a little bit, or that usually gives some troubles. You mean like doing something like this?
Well, I mean, I don't know how it's actually done, I suppose. But I mean, the point is you didn't change anything in the code, and the problem was with the code, no? Like, you're in another folder, you're trying to import something from a completely different folder, so it can't do it.
Yeah, exactly. That's the problem. That's actually the problem that you're trying to tell this test to take a look at scraper, but inside test there are no scraper folder whatsoever. So it will be lost. It will not know where to go. But first of all, now we have moved a level above. So you can see that I'm not in that directory anymore. I'm not inside Zoopla test. I'm actually in Zoopla, and we have access from this directory to scraper and to test. So actually, if I run this, let's say my main, the directory where I'm running this from should know where to find scraper, right?
Should it? I thought that it was looking from where the file is, though. Like test scraper it doesn't matter where you are in the terminal. That's like separate to where the test scraper.py file is, or am I wrong about that? It can just be run from anywhere and it's supposed to know.
Yeah, you can. You are going to find anything, or you should be able to find anything as long as you are in the correct directory. In this case, it would
Okay.
be like if I run this from Zoopla and not from test.
Right.
Does
Okay.
that make sense?
Right. Okay. I've just been thinking of it wrong then.
Cool. Yeah, but it's a little bit tricky, to be honest, because it should be working fine, but you have to be a little bit careful to define like your packages and all of that. So you can tell me what's the difference, or what can I do to create or to transform a folder into a package?
Give the folders init files, init.py files.
Yep, init.py, and with that, now our test folder became a package. So we can use that package to run. Sorry. Now we can use that package to run this thing here. There we go. Python -m as the module, and now test scraper. Okay. Yeah. Now it's giving a completely different error. Now it's saying that Selenium WebDriver has no attribute element that I told you that was going to give me an error here, actually. So I'm just gonna delete that. Otherwise, it's going to cause more troubles. And let me run that again, and let me explain you what's going on here. As you can see, nothing happened. I just run that, and everything was working fine. What basically I'm doing is I'm going to run this file here. I mean, you have many ways to run this actually, but the canonical way to run test is by saying that the tests are going to be a module, and you are going to run that module from the main root. And in this case, I'm saying, all right, Python is going to execute a module. That's the reason, because I wrote -m as a module, and then I'm saying, all right, so run test.testScraper. Now, the difference between running a script and a module in this case will be that when you run a script, you have to define the folder and then the extension of that file. But in this case, it won't run, basically because what you said, Noah, will happen in this case. It's trying to look for scraper inside test folder. But if you follow, let's say, the canonical way to run test is you are going to run everything from the main folder. Okay, so maybe it's a little bit confusing what I'm saying right now, because I'm telling you that no, this is going to find anything, or it's going to look for everything inside this folder, but then I'm telling you that no, this is going to look for everything on the parent folder. If you follow the canonical way for running test, then you are going to run, or you're going to find everything from this directory, from the Zoopla directory. But on the other hand, if I run the script directly, then it will try to find, regardless of where I'm running that from, it will just try to find scraper inside the test folder. Yeah, so sorry for the confusion. I know this is quite confusing, and it causes a lot of troubles when people are trying to make tests. And if you take a look at the Stack Overflow threads on tests and how to distribute your test folder and your main folder, there's no consensus on this. Everyone has their own method, but the majority agrees that the main idea, the main way to run tests is by running this command here, which I should zoom in.
Can I ask, what does the -m switch do? Is that because you've made it a module by including the double under in it?
Exactly. Let me delete init very quickly and try to run this. Okay. Oh no, actually it will work now. Now that I think about it, they updated Python. I keep saying that you need to include init, but they updated Python, so you don't have to include init anymore. It will be a package by default. Whenever you create a folder, it will be a package by default without the init file.
Okay.
So why didn't it work before? Was it just the command you were using then?
Oh no, yeah, it was because the command that I was running was this one.
So the command had the slash rather than the dot.
Yeah, this is the one that will not work,
Yeah.
and this is the one that will work.
So you
Okay.
need the -m as well, do you?
Yeah, to define that you are going to run this as a module.
And if you included the .py on the end of the -m,
Mm-hmm. Yep, it's going to complain because it's saying this is something wrong. I mean, I can't run this because it's not actually a module. I mean, you can run that as a module if you don't include the py. If you include the py, we'll try to execute it as a Python script, which behaves a little bit different.
nice. And it says try using this instead of that without the .py as the module name. Nice. Okay. So a package is a collection of modules in
Exactly.
a folder
Yep.
structure.
Exactly. That's basically it. Right now, since they changed or since they updated Python like 1 year ago, more or less, I think that any folder you create is considered as a package.
So we'll get away with not putting the double under in it.
Yeah, exactly. But and this is the last thing that I wanted to say about Docstring. Let's create an init file, and I'm just gonna make a couple of things here. So init can be used in case you want to import, let's say, different packages whenever you initialize Scraper in this case, for example. Oh, sorry, here. Yes. So in this init, or whatever you put inside this init will be run whenever you import Scraper. Or sorry, whenever you import this package. So if I say print, hello, I am in a package. I'm just going to save that. I'm going to create I'm going to go here, restart the kernel to make an import. Let's see, restart, yes. And I'm going to, from this notebook, as you can see on the tree, from this notebook, I'm going to import simply Scraper, simply this package to the notebook. So import Scraper, and that's it. So as you could see, init was included. I mean, sorry, this print statement was included in init, and whatever we put here will be run whenever we import Scraper. So thanks to that characteristic, we can also include some docstring for this package. And the way to do so is by including that docstring inside the init file of that package. So I'm just going to write something random. This is a docstring for my Scraper package, something like that. And import Scraper. Okay, you will see that nothing happens now because I deleted that print statement. But let's see what happens. Oops, sorry. Let's see what happens. Nope, sorry. Okay, my whole tree moved. There we go. Let's see what happens if I write help Scraper. Okay, you can see that now it's providing us with some help on a package, and it's saying, all right, this is the name, and you can even see what's inside the package. Sorry, let me add a few things more. For example, module 1.py, something like that, and I'm going to, oh come on, this is not what I wanted to open. Here it goes. And after restarting and re-importing Scraper, let's take a look again at that Scraper. You can see that the package content will automatically be updated with whatever you include in that folder. And now let's take a look at the help function for the scraper class. So help. Sorry.
Sorry, Ivan. Just while you're on
Yeah.
that, when you imported Scraper and showed off, the init functionality when you had it print something, just above actually where it says just import Scraper, is the word Scraper referring to the folder Scraper or the file scraper.py?
Yeah, I should have changed that. Let me just rename it, folder, something like that. But yeah, I was extension want to name. Okay, yeah. Yeah, now it's going to be a little bit more clear folder. But yeah, I was pointing to the folder and not the script. Sorry
Okay,
about
so
that.
if
That
you
was,
were to import scraper folder dot scraper, for instance, that wouldn't run the init file
let's try
because
that
you're
out.
importing a
Let's try that out.
module.
But so the same thing. So I the package something like that, and okay, so something like this, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yep. You will run anything. I mean, if you try to import something from this folder, it will just go first through the init, and then it will just go to the specific file.
Okay, so it always runs the init the moment you try importing anything related to it. It doesn't need to import the whole thing. It's just any module from there. Okay, it runs the init. Cool, thank you.
Yes, but usually the init, I mean, on the first steps, on the first stages of your projects and on your applications, probably you're not going to include a lot of things on init. You will see a couple of things or a couple of tricks on the notebook that you can include an init inside the init file, but usually they are not really necessary. As long as you know how to get access to the files inside each folder, that should be enough.
Okay, so scraper folder is the package here, and all the py files are the modules, or scraper and module 1 are the modules.
Yep.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
No worries. Scraper, just one more thing. Scraper import. I'm going to import the class, and I'm going to finish now with docstrings and all that. So just one more thing before we finish with docstrings is that who can tell me where should I include the docstring of a module? So let's say that I want to include a docstring for scraper.py. Where should I do that?
At the beginning of scraper.py.
Yes. Oops, that's not the quote that I was looking for. Nice. This is a docstring for the module. Cool. All right. Now let's just restart the kernel and let's rerun this. I'm in the package again. So let's see what happens if I type help scraper. And yeah, as you can see, basically it's going to be the same. But the good thing about it is that the module is going to tell you what classes you have, what functions you have defined in that script, other variables that you might want to include in that script. So in this case, yeah, you can see that by taking a look at the help function in the module, it's going to return what classes it has, where it's still located. And if we go a little bit more specific about it, if we take a look at the help for the class, basically we are just going to be a little bit more specific. We don't want to get all the information on that module. We just want to get information on this class. Okay, so I'm running out of time, so I'm going to leave a little bit more on test for probably Wednesday. We have or probably tomorrow actually. Tomorrow we have a Q&A session, but I guess I can spend a couple of minutes on testing for that. And at the end of the session, I will upload the package to the PyPy repository. But for now, yes. But for now, you already know how to deal with all these dependencies in your structure, well, in the structure of your project, and how to define the docstrings and the type hinting. basically you will see that this field is quite more expensive. But to get started with this, you could see that everything is quite intuitive, and everything that I explained, it's actually something that basically good practices, nothing really technical, and you can implement those Docstring and tips just by taking a look a little bit to the notebooks and expand your knowledge just by taking a look at the documentation. But once again, well, as you can see, everything that I explained is not really technical. So yeah, sorry about it, guys. I usually I usually spend a lot of time just playing a lot of things. So tomorrow I will finish with the test part. I will implement a couple of tests, and then we will upload this package to PyPy repository. So you can go with pip install the scraper, and then you will be able to download the package that I will publish. Cool. Any question before we call it a, well, I was going to say call it a night, but still there's a couple of hours still left.
That's good. Thanks, Ivan.
Yeah,
I was going to quickly ask one thing.
Yep.
So if in this case, scraper.py and module1.py are modules, and
Yep.
scraper folder and tests are packages.
Yeah.
What is the Zoopla folder? Is that a package with packages in it, or has that got its own distinction?
Okay, yeah, that's actually a good question. It can be considered as a library, because that library will contain different packages, but it depends on how you usually publish it. For example, pandas is a library. So if I say import pandas, it's going to be a library, and inside that library we have different packages. But to be honest, the difference between library and package is a little bit, it's not really well defined. I mean, I like to think about it like, I like to think about it as a library. I like to think about a library as a collection of packages, and a package as a collection of modules. But many people use package for everything. So,
Cool.
From my perspective, I think it makes more sense to call library something that contains a lot of packages, and just to tell a little bit, just to have like a little bit of difference between them.
Cool, thanks.
But yeah, in this case, I will say in this particular case, to be more specific, I will say that Zoopla is not a library specifically, because it's more like your root directory, and you're going to simply use it to work. It's not that you're going to publish the whole Zoopla thing with many packages inside. You will see that tomorrow, that as soon as I publish something, the only thing that you are going to see published will be the scraper folder. And there's a couple of reasons behind that, which basically has something to do with the init. But I will explain that tomorrow. Basically, if you include init inside a folder, right now you don't have to include it to consider as a package. But when you publish it on PyPy, if you don't include init, it won't be published.
Okay,
because
great.
It's not considered as a package. So yeah, tomorrow as soon as I publish it, you will see that I'm not going to publish everything that I have inside here. I will just publish this scraper folder, and that will be my package. But the end users will not see anything about Zoopla. Well, apart from scraper folder, of course. Apart from that folder, the users will not see anything besides. So yes, it depends on how you publish it. So yeah, in this case, Zoopla is basically going to be the work directory more than a package or a library or a module.
So Ivan, is it that for the folders to be visible, you need to include the init?
Well, not to make it visible. The thing is that when you create the setup.py will tell your package, or will tell your project what things should be published. And there's a nifty trick that will allow you to detect easily these packages. And one of the way it basically detects that something is a package that can be published is that it contains this image.py. That makes it quite easier to publish everything. So basically, if you don't include that in it, the setup.py that we will use tomorrow to publish packages will not detect those folders as packages, and they won't be published. But yeah, don't worry right now, because I know that all these practical examples might be a little bit difficult just to understand by saying them out loud. So tomorrow I will explain you a little bit more on this packages thing and how they are detected by the file that is going to create the distribution files that will be eventually be published. Cool. Anything else, guys?
Cool. Thank you.
Awesome. All right. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Ivan.
Cheers. I'll see you tomorrow. Yeah, I will publish another. Well, I will update the agenda for tomorrow. So tomorrow we'll have another demo at the beginning of the session. Well, at the beginning of the Q&A session. So it's not going to be 45 minutes of Q&A session. It will be a little bit on demo and then just your question.
Cool. Cheers, Ivan.
Okay. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Ivan.
Thank you.
Cheers, Ivan. Thank you.
Thank you.